My name is Jace Sollace, and until 3 weeks ago, I believed I was living an ordinary life with an extraordinary woman. I install security systems for a living: cameras, alarms, motion sensors. The irony wasn't lost on me when I discovered my own house had been compromised for 18 months. It started on a Tuesday night in October. Ember was in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, voice low and careful. I was in the garage, organizing my toolbox, when her words drifted through the thin wall. "He's just so dull, Griffin. I swear, sometimes I think I married the discount version of a real man." I stopped sorting screws. Griffin. She'd mentioned him before. Her college boyfriend, now engaged to someone else. Ancient history, she'd assured me. No, he has no idea. How could he? He comes home, eats dinner, watches his sports highlights, and falls asleep by 10. I could probably have an entire second family, and he wouldn't notice. Her laugh was soft, intimate, the kind of laugh she used to save for me. I pressed my ear to the wall, heart hammering against my ribs. Through the drywall, I heard her say, "I love you too, baby. Tomorrow at 3, same place." When she ended the call, I stayed frozen in the garage for 20 minutes, staring at my reflection in the chrome of a wrench. Average height, average build, average brown hair thinning at the crown. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was the store-brand cereal of husbands. Functional, affordable, but nothing anyone would choose if they had better options. The next morning, Ember kissed my cheek and announced she was meeting her sister Pamela for lunch. "Girl time," she said, adjusting her makeup in the hallway mirror. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, the blue dress that hugged her curves, the perfume I'd bought her for our anniversary. "Have fun," I said, watching her gather her purse and keys. "Tell Pamela I said hello." "Of course, honey. Love you." The words sounded rehearsed, like dialogue from a play she'd performed too many times. After she left, I sat at our kitchen table with her iPad, which she'd forgotten in her rush. The device synced to her phone automatically, a feature I'd set up months ago to help her manage her work calendar. She was a public relations manager for a local nonprofit, always juggling meetings and events. The notification appeared while I was checking our shared grocery list. A text message from Baby with a heart emoji. "Can't wait to see you, same room as last time." My finger hovered over the screen. I could ignore it, pretend I hadn't seen it, continue living in the comfortable fiction that my marriage was solid, or I could tap the message and discover what my wife meant by "same room as last time." I tapped. The conversation thread stretched back 18 months. Hundreds of messages, photos, voice notes. Griffin Marrow, successful restaurateur, recently engaged to Leora Ventral, owner of an upscale bridal boutique downtown. The same Griffin who supposedly belonged to Ember's past. The messages painted a detailed picture of their affair. Hotel rooms booked under false names, elaborate alibis involving fictional work events and family obligations. Commentary about their respective partners that made my stomach clench. "Jace actually believes I'm working late again," read one message from 3 months ago. "Sometimes I think he's willfully ignorant. It's almost insulting how easy this is." Griffin's response: "Leora's the same way, too trusting for her own good. She's planning our wedding while I'm planning our next getaway. The irony is delicious." I screenshotted everything, every message, every photo, every casual cruelty. When I finally reached the beginning of their conversation, my phone's storage was nearly full. The printer in my home office worked overtime that afternoon. 247 pages of evidence, organized chronologically. I read every word twice, memorizing the timeline of my humiliation. They'd rekindled their relationship at Ember's 10-year college reunion. Griffin had approached her at the hotel bar, mentioned his engagement, then suggested they catch up privately. 1 drink became 3, 3 drinks became a room key. "Like old times," he'd texted the next morning. "But better. We're both more sophisticated now." Sophisticated. That was their word for adultery. The affair had rules, boundaries they'd established to protect their public lives. No communication from personal phones. They used a messaging app that deleted conversations automatically. No public meetings in places where mutual friends might see them. No gifts that couldn't be explained as work-related or family purchases. They were careful, methodical, smart, but they'd underestimated the technology in their own homes. As I read, my initial shock transformed into something colder, more focused. Anger was too simple an emotion for what I felt. This was betrayal with premeditation, cruelty with calculation. They hadn't just broken their commitments, they'd turned those commitments into jokes. The messages revealed their future plans too. Griffin intended to marry Leora for her family money and social connections, while maintaining his relationship with Ember indefinitely. Ember planned to stay married to me until our daughter graduated high school, using our stable home as cover for her double life. Jace is good father material, she'd written. Reliable, devoted, completely committed to Emma. I can't give her that kind of stability with anyone else. They'd reduced me to a function, the dependable husband who provided security while they pursued passion. I was a supporting character in my own marriage. That evening, Ember returned home with shopping bags from stores she claimed to have visited with Pamela. She'd purchased new lingerie, expensive perfume, a silk scarf I'd never seen before. "How was lunch?" I asked, watching her arrange her purchases on our bed. "Wonderful. Pamela's thinking about redecorating her living room. We spent hours looking at fabric samples." She was an excellent liar. Her voice held exactly the right note of mild boredom, the casual dismissiveness of someone recounting an unremarkable afternoon. If I hadn't read her messages, I would have believed every word. "That sounds nice," I said. "Did you find anything you liked?" "A few things. Nothing too exciting." She held up the lingerie, black lace, tags still attached. "Pamela convinced me to try something new. Do you like it?" The question felt like a test. I wondered if Griffin had already seen her wearing it, if my opinion mattered at all. "It's beautiful," I said, very sophisticated. Her smile was radiant, genuine. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with 8 years ago, confident, radiant, alive. Then I remembered the messages, the casual cruelty, the 18 months of deception. "I'm going to shower," she announced, gathering her new purchases. "Emma's at my mother's tonight, remember? We have the house to ourselves." The invitation was clear. Under normal circumstances, I would have followed her upstairs, grateful for rare time alone together. Instead, I remained at the kitchen table, staring at the printed messages I'd hidden in my toolbox. While water ran in the bathroom above, I made my decision. Ember and Griffin had played a careful game, but they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated their opponent. I wasn't the discount version of anything. I was a man who installed security systems for a living, who understood surveillance and evidence collection, who knew how to be patient and methodical. If they wanted to play games, I'd show them what average really looked like when it got angry. Griffin's fiancé worked at Enchanted Beginnings, the bridal boutique on 5th Street where wealthy women spent more on wedding dresses than I earned in 6 months. I'd driven past it countless times, never imagining I'd have reason to visit. Leora Ventrell was exactly what I'd expected. Elegant, soft-spoken, completely devoted to Griffin. Her social media painted the picture of perfect happiness. Engagement photos at sunset, wedding planning updates, countdown posts to their dream day. She had no idea her dream was my wife's side project. I spent 2 days planning my approach. The printed messages needed proper presentation. This wasn't just revenge, it was revelation. Leora deserved to know the truth, but she also deserved to discover it in a way that left no room for doubt or denial. On Friday morning, I purchased elegant wrapping paper, silver ribbon, and a card that read, "Congratulations on your engagement." I packaged the 247 pages of evidence like a wedding gift, complete with a bow and a handwritten note. "From someone who cares about your happiness. Read everything before you make any decisions." The boutique was busy when I arrived. 3 brides-to-be examining dresses while their mothers offered opinions and photographers captured memories. Leora stood near the back, consulting with a bride about alterations. "Excuse me," I said, approaching the counter. "I have a delivery for Leora Ventrell." The receptionist smiled. "She's with a client right now. Can I sign for it?" "It's personal, wedding-related. I think she'd want to open it herself." "Of course. Leora, you have a delivery." Leora approached with professional grace, her expression curious but welcoming. She was prettier than her photos suggested, genuine warmth in her eyes, the kind of person who probably remembered customers' names and asked about their families. "This is unexpected," she said, accepting the package. "I wasn't expecting anything today." "The sender wanted it to be a surprise," I replied. "Congratulations on your engagement, by the way. Griffin's a lucky man." Her smile brightened. "Thank you. That's very kind." I watched her examine the package, noting the careful wrapping, the formal card. She seemed genuinely touched that someone had taken such care with a gift. "Would you like to open it now?" I suggested. "I'm curious to see what it is." "I probably shouldn't. We're quite busy today, and I like to give gifts proper attention." "I understand completely. Take your time." I left the boutique and waited in my truck across the street. Through the large windows, I could see Leora return to her clients, the package set aside on the counter. She worked for another hour, helping brides envision their perfect days, completely unaware that her own perfect day was about to shatter. At 3:30, the boutique emptied of customers. Leora retrieved the package, settling into a chair near the window. She untied the ribbon carefully, preserving the bow, then lifted the lid of the box. The first page was a cover letter I'd written, explaining the source of the documents and suggesting she read everything before making any decisions about her future. Below that were the printed messages, organized chronologically with key passages highlighted. I watched her face change as she read. Curiosity became confusion, confusion became horror, horror became something harder to define. She read for 20 minutes, turning pages with mechanical precision, her expression growing more distant with each revelation. Then she stood up, walked to the bathroom, and didn't emerge for 10 minutes. When she finally returned, her eyes were red, but her posture was straight. She gathered the papers, placed them back in the box, and picked up her phone. Through the window, I could see her lips moving, her free hand gesturing emphatically. The conversation lasted 15 minutes. When it ended, she immediately made another call, then another. By 5 o'clock, 3 women had arrived at the boutique, friends I assumed, summoned for emergency support. They huddled around Leora as she shared the evidence, their expressions shifting from skepticism to outrage. One of them, a tall blonde with fierce eyes, took photos of key pages with her phone. Another made phone calls while pacing the boutique's perimeter. The third simply held Leora's hand while she cried. I drove home satisfied, but not celebratory. This wasn't victory. It was necessary surgery, cutting away infection before it spread further. Ember was in our kitchen when I arrived, preparing dinner with unusual enthusiasm. She'd chosen my favorite meal, grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, homemade bread. The table was set with our good dishes, candles lit, wine breathing in crystal glasses. "What's the occasion?" I asked, hanging my jacket in the closet. "Do I need an occasion to make dinner for my husband?" She kissed my cheek, her perfume familiar and comforting. I realized we haven't had a proper evening together in weeks. I thought we could reconnect. The timing was interesting. Griffin must have told her about his conversation with Leora, though I doubted he'd revealed the full extent of the damage. They probably assumed Leora would confront them privately, allowing them to minimize and deflect. "That sounds wonderful," I said. "You look beautiful tonight." She did look beautiful. Radiant, in fact, the way she always looked when she was excited about something. I wondered if the excitement came from anticipating time with me or from whatever story she and Griffin had constructed to explain away Leora's suspicions. We ate dinner by candlelight, discussing Emma's school progress, my latest work projects, her upcoming campaign for the nonprofit. Normal conversation, comfortable and familiar. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed this was genuine intimacy. "I've been thinking," she said over dessert, "about us, about how we've been drifting lately." "Have we been drifting? Don't you feel it? We're like roommates sometimes, going through the motions. I want more for us than that." Her sincerity was perfect, her concern apparently genuine. She was either an exceptional actress or had compartmentalized so completely that she believed her own performance. "What do you suggest?" I asked. "More evenings like this? More attention to each other? Maybe we could plan a weekend getaway, just the two of us, somewhere romantic, away from all our responsibilities?" "That sounds nice. When were you thinking?" "Soon. I could check my calendar tomorrow, see when I have some flexibility." I nodded, sipping my wine, wondering if she was planning to cancel hotel reservations with Griffin or simply reschedule them. The messages had mentioned a weekend trip they'd planned for next month, a spa resort 3 hours away, booked under Griffin's name. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at the screen and felt my pulse quicken. "Unknown number," I said, showing Ember the notification. "Probably spam." But the message wasn't spam. It was from Leora. "Thank you for the truth. The wedding is canceled. Griffin is moving out tonight. I thought you should know." I deleted the message and returned my attention to Ember, who was describing her vision for our romantic getaway with animated enthusiasm. She had no idea that her carefully constructed world was already collapsing. "That sounds perfect," I said. "I can't wait." Her smile was luminous, triumphant. She thought she'd successfully managed another crisis, maintained another fiction. Tomorrow would bring unpleasant surprises, but tonight she could enjoy the illusion of control. I helped her clear the dishes, accepted her invitation to watch a movie together, held her hand during the romantic comedy she'd chosen. When she fell asleep against my shoulder, I studied her peaceful expression and wondered if she ever dreamed about the truth. My phone buzzed again near midnight. Another unknown number, another message. "This is Kara Venner, Ember's friend. We need to talk. Tomorrow, if possible. There are things you need to know." I deleted that message too and carried Ember upstairs to our bedroom. She murmured my name as I tucked her in, reaching for my hand in her sleep. "I love you, Jace," she whispered, eyes still closed. "I love you too," I replied, and meant it completely. That was the most terrible part of all. Despite everything, despite the evidence and the betrayal and the calculated cruelty, I still loved my wife. The woman sleeping beside me was both the person I'd devoted my life to and a stranger who'd been lying to me for 18 months. But love without trust was just another form of suffering, and I'd suffered enough. Kara Venner met me at Murphy's Diner on Saturday morning, her usual confidence replaced by nervous energy. She'd been Ember's best friend since college, maid of honor at our wedding, godmother to our daughter. If anyone knew the full scope of Ember's deception, it would be Kara. "You look tired," she said as I slid into the booth across from her. "I haven't been sleeping well lately. Stress from work." She nodded, stirring her coffee with mechanical precision. "Jace, I need to tell you something, and I need you to promise you won't interrupt until I'm finished." "I'm listening." "I've been covering for Ember for months. The late meetings, the weekend conferences, the girls' nights that ran until morning. Most of them were lies, and I provided the alibis." She paused, waiting for my reaction. I kept my expression neutral, encouraging her to continue. "At first, I thought it was harmless. She said she needed space, time to figure out what she wanted. She was feeling trapped, suffocated by routine. I thought if she had an outlet, she might appreciate what she had at home." "What kind of outlet?" "Griffin Marrow, her college boyfriend. They reconnected at the reunion, and she convinced me it was just friendship, coffee meetings, nostalgic conversations about old times. I believed her because I wanted to believe her." Kara's voice was steady, but her hands shook as she reached for her coffee cup. "When did you realize it was more than friendship?" 3 months ago. She asked me to cover for a weekend trip to Chicago, said she was attending a professional conference, needed me to back up her story if you called. But I saw the hotel reservation on her phone. 2 guests, king bed, romantic package. "Did you confront her?" "I tried. She said it was complicated, that you and she had grown apart, that she was planning to end things with Griffin after his wedding. She made it sound temporary, like she was working through a phase." "But you kept providing alibis." "Yes." The word came out as a whisper. "I kept telling myself I was protecting your marriage, giving her time to come to her senses. But really I was just protecting myself from having to choose between my best friend and doing the right thing." I appreciated her honesty, even if it came 18 months too late. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Griffin's wedding was canceled yesterday. Leora found out about the affair. Someone sent her evidence. Griffin called Ember in a panic, and Ember called me. She's terrified you'll discover the truth." "What did she ask you to do?" "Lie bigger. She wants me to say we've been planning a surprise for your birthday, that all her secretive behavior was about organizing something special. She's desperate, Jace. She knows her world is falling apart." I leaned back in the booth, processing this information. Ember's romantic dinner the night before made more sense now. She was trying to rebuild intimacy as insurance against discovery. "There's something else," Kara continued. "Something about money. Ember mentioned taking out loans, moving funds around. She said Griffin's restaurant was struggling, that she was helping him through a rough patch." "What kind of help?" "I don't know the details, but she's been stressed about finances lately, checking bank statements obsessively, making phone calls about payment schedules. I think she's in deeper than just emotional infidelity." My stomach clenched. I'd been focused on the affair itself, but if Ember had been moving our money to support Griffin's business, the betrayal extended beyond emotional and physical infidelity into financial fraud. "Kara, I need you to do something for me." "What?" "Stop covering for her. If she asks you to lie again, refuse. Tell her you can't be involved anymore. She'll know something's wrong. She'll suspect you know. Let her suspect. The lies stop now." Kara nodded, relief evident in her expression. "I'm sorry, Jace. I should have told you months ago. I was trying to protect everyone, but I ended up protecting no one. You're telling me now. That's what matters." After Kara left, I drove to my bank and requested copies of all account statements for the past 2 years. The process took an hour, but the results were illuminating. Ember had been moving money systematically, small amounts at first, then larger sums as Griffin's needs increased. She'd opened a credit line using our house as collateral, taken cash advances on credit cards I didn't know existed, even borrowed against my retirement account. The total damage was staggering, $127,000 in loans and advances, all funneled to accounts connected to Griffin's restaurant. She'd essentially mortgaged our future to fund her lover's dreams. I called my attorney, David Chen, and scheduled an emergency consultation. David had handled our house purchase and Emma's adoption paperwork, routine legal work for a stable family. This conversation would be different. "How bad is it?" David asked after reviewing the financial documents. "Worse than I thought. She's been forging my signature on loan applications, using our joint assets as collateral without my knowledge. If Griffin's restaurant fails, we lose everything. Do you have evidence of the forgery? I handed him copies of the loan documents. My signature appeared on papers I'd never seen, authorizing debts I'd never agreed to accept. This is financial fraud, David said. Criminal charges are possible. I don't want her in prison. I want our money back and our daughter protected. We can pursue civil remedies, freeze the accounts, demand repayment, file for divorce with claims of financial misconduct. But Jace, you need to understand. If the money's already spent, recovery might be impossible. Then we make sure Griffin pays it back. David raised an eyebrow. What do you have in mind? Leave that to me. Just prepare the paperwork to protect our assets and secure my custody rights. That evening, I confronted Ember directly. She was in our bedroom, folding laundry with unusual attention to detail, a nervous habit she'd developed during stressful periods. We need to talk about money, I said, closing the door behind me. Her hand stilled on Emma's school uniform. What about money? The loans you've been taking, the credit lines, the cash advances, all of it. Her face went pale, but she recovered quickly. I don't know what you're talking about. $127,000, Ember. That's what you've borrowed against our assets in the past 18 months. That's impossible. I would never... I have the bank statements, the loan applications, your signature on documents I never saw. She sat down heavily on our bed, her careful composure finally cracking. Jace, I can explain. I'm listening. Griffin's restaurant was failing. He was going to lose everything. His investment, his reputation, his future. I wanted to help. With our money, without my knowledge. I was going to tell you, I was waiting for the right time. When? After we lost the house? After Emma's college fund disappeared? Tears started flowing down her cheeks. Genuine emotion, finally, instead of calculated performance. I never meant for it to go this far. I thought Griffin would pay it back quickly, that you'd never need to know. But Griffin doesn't know you're married to me, does he? He thinks this is your money to give. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Pack a bag, I said. You're staying somewhere else tonight. Tomorrow we start figuring out how to fix this mess. Jace, please, we can work this out. I'll end things with Griffin, pay back every penny. Just give me a chance. You've had 18 months of chances. You chose to spend them lying to me. She packed with shaking hands, selecting clothes and toiletries while I watched from the doorway. When she finished, she turned to face me with desperate hope in her eyes. Do you still love me? She asked. Yes, I said. That's why this hurts so much. Then we can fix this. Love can overcome anything. Love without trust isn't love, Ember. It's just shared delusion. She left that night, driving to her sister Pamela's house with 2 suitcases and the wreckage of our marriage. I sat in our empty bedroom, surrounded by the evidence of her deception, and began planning the next phase of my response. Griffin Marrow had destroyed one engagement and was about to lose a second relationship, but he hadn't paid the full price for his choices yet. That was about to change. Sunday morning brought an unexpected visitor. Dr. Vera Corvin, our marriage counselor, stood on my doorstep with coffee and what appeared to be a prepared speech. Jace, I hope you don't mind me stopping by. I wanted to discuss Ember's situation privately. Come in, I said, curious about her agenda. Dr. Corvin settled into our living room with professional poise, but I detected nervousness beneath her composed exterior. Ember called me yesterday, quite distressed. She mentioned that you've discovered some financial irregularities and that your marriage is in crisis. That's one way to describe it. I want you to know that during our sessions, Ember expressed deep love for you and commitment to your family. Whatever mistakes she's made, her feelings for you are genuine. I studied Dr. Corvin's face, noting the careful phrasing, the therapeutic neutrality that seemed forced. Did she mention Griffin Marrow during your sessions? Dr. Corvin's pause lasted a moment too long. Patient confidentiality prevents me from discussing specific details. That's interesting, because Ember signed a waiver allowing you to share session notes with me. It's in your file. Another pause. Some information is particularly sensitive. Like the fact that you knew about her affair for months and advised her to keep it secret. Dr. Corvin's professional mask slipped slightly. That's not accurate. I have her session transcripts, Dr. Corvin, the ones you gave me Friday night in exchange for my promise not to file a complaint with the licensing board. You said you wouldn't. I said I'd consider your offer. I considered it and decided that patient transcripts obtained through blackmail aren't admissible in court anyway, so I filed the complaint yesterday morning. Dr. Corvin stood abruptly, her coffee cup rattling against its saucer. You're making a mistake, Jace. Ember needs professional support right now, not vindictive punishment. Ember needs consequences. So do you. After Dr. Corvin left, I called my attorney to discuss custody arrangements. Emma was spending the weekend with Ember's mother, unaware that her parents' marriage was disintegrating. She deserved stability and protection from the chaos her mother had created. Emergency custody is possible, David explained, but judges prefer gradual transitions when there's no immediate danger to the child. What about financial fraud? Doesn't that demonstrate poor judgment? It helps, but we need more evidence of direct impact on Emma's welfare. Then we'll get more evidence. Monday brought developments I hadn't anticipated. Griffin Marrow called my office, requesting a meeting to discuss our mutual situation like civilized men. I agreed to meet him at his restaurant after closing time. The establishment was smaller than I'd expected. 40 seats, modest decor, the kind of place that survived on local loyalty rather than tourist traffic. No wonder it needed financial support. Griffin was waiting at the bar when I arrived, nursing a whiskey and looking like a man who'd aged 5 years in the past week. His confidence had evaporated, replaced by desperate calculation. "Thank you for coming," he said, gesturing to the stool beside him. "Can I offer you a drink?" "I'm fine. What did you want to discuss?" "Ember, our situation, the misunderstanding that's caused problems for everyone." "Misunderstanding?" "Look, I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But Ember and I never intended for things to go this far. It started as friendship, became something more. But we always planned to end it before anyone got hurt." I studied his face, noting the practiced sincerity, the rehearsed contrition. He was trying to minimize the damage, control the narrative. "When were you planning to end it?" "After my wedding. We agreed that marriage would change everything, that we'd go back to being just friends." "Except your wedding was canceled." Griffin's jaw tightened. "That was unfortunate. Leora overreacted to some taken-out-of-context messages. But the principle remains. Ember and I recognize that our relationship has run its course. What about the money?" "What money?" "The $127,000 my wife loaned you. When are you planning to pay that back?" Griffin's expression shifted from conciliatory to defensive. "I don't know what Ember told you, but any financial assistance she provided was voluntary. A business investment, not a loan." "Do you have documentation of this investment? Contracts, agreements, anything in writing?" "Our arrangement was informal, based on trust." "Trust. That's interesting, coming from a man who was planning to marry one woman while sleeping with another." Griffin stood, his diplomatic facade cracking. "I don't have to listen to this. Ember made her own choices. If you can't handle that, it's not my problem. Actually, it is your problem, because I'm making it your problem." I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo I'd taken that morning, a for sale sign in front of his restaurant. "I bought your mortgage from the bank this morning. Paid cash, thanks to a loan against my retirement account. Funny thing about commercial mortgages, they often include clauses allowing the holder to demand immediate payment under certain circumstances." Griffin's face went white. "You can't do that." "I already did. You have 30 days to pay the full balance or face foreclosure. That's about $400,000, in case you're wondering." "This is insane. You're destroying innocent people's livelihoods over a relationship that's already over." "I'm protecting my family's financial future. The money Ember gave you was stolen from our joint accounts. I want it back, with interest." "I don't have that kind of cash available." "Then sell the restaurant. Liquidate your assets. Ask your family for help. I don't care how you do it, but you're going to pay back every penny." Griffin slammed his glass down on the bar. "And if I refuse? Then you lose everything. The restaurant, your reputation, your future in this town. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are." "You're bluffing." I showed him another photo, a draft press release I'd prepared for the local newspaper. The headline read, "Local Restaurant Owner's Affair Costs Investor $127,000. I know the editor at the Tribune, golf buddies. He'll run this story if I ask him to." Griffin stared at the press release, his hands trembling slightly. "What do you want?" "Full repayment of the money within 60 days, a written confession detailing your affair with my wife, and a promise that you'll never contact Ember again. And in return, I don't destroy your life completely." Griffin was quiet for a long moment, weighing his options. Finally, he nodded. "I'll need time to arrange the money." "You have 60 days, not a day more." I left him sitting at his bar, staring at his reflection in the mirror behind the bottles. The man who'd seemed so confident in his text messages looked small and defeated in person. Revenge, I was discovering, was less satisfying than I'd expected. There was no triumphant moment, no surge of vindication, just the grim satisfaction of watching consequences catch up with choices. But I wasn't finished yet. Griffin was only half the equation. Ember was waiting for me when I got home, sitting in our driveway in her car. She'd been crying. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes red and swollen. "We need to talk," she said as I approached her window. "Tomorrow, through our lawyers." "Jace, please, just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I got into the passenger seat of her car. "Griffin told me what you did. Buying his mortgage, threatening his business. This isn't you." "You're right. The old me would have suffered in silence, pretended everything was fine, let you and Griffin continue your little game indefinitely. I ended things with Griffin. It's over. Because he's broke now, not because you suddenly developed a conscience." She turned to face me, her expression desperate. "I know I made terrible mistakes. I know I hurt you in ways that can't be easily forgiven, but we have a daughter together, a life we built over 8 years. Doesn't that count for anything?" "It counts for everything. That's why I'm fighting so hard to protect it." "By destroying our marriage?" "Our marriage was destroyed 18 months ago. I'm just cleaning up the wreckage." Ember started crying again, deep sobs that shook her entire body. Despite everything, I felt a stab of sympathy. This was the woman I'd loved. The mother of my child, reduced to begging in a car outside the home we'd shared. "What can I do?" she whispered. "How can I fix this?" "You can't. Some things can't be fixed, only ended cleanly. I won't give up on us." "Then you'll be fighting alone." I got out of her car and walked into our house, leaving her crying in the driveway. Through the window, I watched her sit there for 20 minutes before finally driving away. The next phase would be the hardest: custody negotiations, divorce proceedings, the legal dismantling of our shared life. But tonight, for the first time in weeks, I felt something approaching peace. The truth was finally in the open, and the consequences were finally catching up with the choices. The custody hearing was scheduled for Thursday morning, giving me 3 days to prepare my case. David Chen had assembled a compelling file: financial records showing Ember's fraud, evidence of her affair, documentation of her lies to therapists and friends. "The judge will want to see that you can provide stable care for Emma," David explained during our final preparation meeting. "Your work schedule, childcare arrangements, emotional stability, everything will be scrutinized." "I'm ready." "What about Ember? Any chance she'll contest aggressively?" "She'll fight, but she doesn't have much ammunition left." Wednesday evening, I picked Emma up from her grandmother's house. At 7 years old, she was old enough to sense tension, but young enough to accept simple explanations. "Daddy, why is Mommy staying at Aunt Pamela's house?" "Mommy and Daddy are having some grown-up problems right now. We're working on fixing them." "Are you getting divorced like Tommy's parents?" The directness of the question caught me off guard. "We might be, sweetheart, but that doesn't change how much we both love you." "Will I still live in our house?" "Yes. This will always be your home." Emma nodded solemnly, processing this information with the resilience children display in crisis situations. "Can we have pancakes for breakfast tomorrow?" "Absolutely." That night, after Emma was asleep, I sat in my home office reviewing the evidence one final time. The printed messages, financial records, and witness statements painted a clear picture of Ember's deception, but looking at the documents also reminded me of happier times: family photos on my desk, Emma's artwork on the walls, reminders of the life we'd built before everything fell apart. My phone rang at 11:30, Ember's number. "Jace, I need to see you, tonight." "It's late. Emma's sleeping." "Please, I have something to show you, something that changes everything." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at the diner where I'd spoken with Kara. She was waiting in a corner booth, looking exhausted but determined. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "I know you have no reason to trust me, but I need you to see this." She handed me a thick envelope. Inside were legal documents, loan agreements, promissory notes, business contracts, all bearing Griffin's signature. What am I looking at? Proof that Griffin knew exactly where the money was coming from. He knew you hadn't approved the loans, knew I was taking them without your knowledge. He encouraged it. I examined the documents more closely. They were genuine: Griffin's signature, his attorney's letterhead, dates corresponding to the timeline of their affair. "Where did you get these?" "Griffin's office. He kept copies of everything, probably as insurance against exactly this situation." "You broke into his office?" "I still had a key from when I was helping with his bookkeeping. Jace, he used me. He knew our marriage would be destroyed, knew you'd suffer financially, and he didn't care. He wanted the money more than he wanted to protect anyone." I studied Ember's face, searching for signs of manipulation or deception. She looked genuinely shaken, genuinely remorseful. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I realized something when I saw these documents. Griffin never loved me. He loved what I could provide: money, excitement, an escape from his own problems. I was just another resource to exploit." "And you want me to feel sorry for you?" "I want you to understand that I was manipulated too. Not as much as you, not as innocently, but I was still a victim of his schemes." I leaned back in the booth, processing this new information. The documents did suggest a level of premeditation on Griffin's part that went beyond simple adultery into calculated fraud. "What do you want from me, Ember?" "A chance to make this right. Let me testify against Griffin, help you recover the money, prove that I'm willing to face consequences for my choices. In exchange for what?" "Shared custody. A chance to rebuild some kind of relationship with our daughter." I looked at the woman across from me, my wife of 8 years, mother of my child, the person who'd betrayed me more completely than I'd thought possible. She was offering cooperation, but was it genuine remorse or calculated self-interest? "I'll consider your offer," I said finally. "But the custody hearing proceeds as scheduled. We'll see what the judge decides." Thursday morning arrived gray and cold, matching my mood as David and I entered the courthouse. Ember was already there with her attorney, looking nervous but determined. She'd dressed conservatively, dark suit, minimal makeup, the image of responsible motherhood. The hearing lasted 3 hours. David presented our evidence methodically: financial fraud, adultery, deception, breach of trust. Ember's attorney countered with character witnesses, evidence of her devotion to Emma, arguments about the importance of maternal relationships. When called to testify, Ember surprised me. Instead of minimizing her actions or deflecting blame, she accepted full responsibility for her choices. "I betrayed my husband's trust," she said clearly. "I made terrible decisions that hurt my family. I take complete responsibility for the affair and the financial deception." The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, listened impassively. "Mrs. Sollace, do you believe you can provide stable care for your daughter, given these circumstances?" "I believe I can learn to be the mother Emma deserves. I'm willing to accept whatever conditions the court imposes: counseling, supervised visits, financial accountability. I just want the chance to maintain a relationship with my child." When it was my turn to testify, I focused on practical matters: my work schedule, childcare arrangements, Emma's need for stability. I avoided emotional appeals or character assassination. "Mr. Sollace," the judge asked, "what custody arrangement do you believe serves your daughter's best interests?" "Primary custody with me, supervised visitation for her mother until trust can be rebuilt. Emma loves both her parents. She shouldn't be punished for our failures." The judge recessed for an hour to review the evidence. When she returned, her decision was measured but clear. "Primary custody is awarded to Mr. Sollace, with supervised visitation for Mrs. Sollace pending completion of court-mandated counseling and financial restitution. This arrangement will be reviewed in 6 months." Ember accepted the decision with dignity, though I could see tears in her eyes. As we left the courthouse, she approached me one final time. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not trying to take Emma away from me completely, for giving me a chance to earn back some trust. Emma needs her mother, just not the version of her mother that's been around for the past 18 months. "I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to become someone worthy of that trust again." 6 weeks later, Griffin Marrow made his final payment: $127,000 plus interest, transferred from the sale of his restaurant and liquidation of his assets. He left town shortly after, relocating to another state where his reputation hadn't preceded him. Dr. Vera Corvin lost her license to practice therapy, though she avoided criminal charges. Her notes became part of the court record, helping establish the timeline and extent of the deception. Ember moved into a small apartment across town and began the long process of rebuilding her life. She attended counseling, found a new job, and slowly earned supervised visits with Emma. The trust between us remained broken, but we developed a functional co-parenting relationship focused on our daughter's needs. On a Saturday morning in spring, I watched Emma play in our backyard while I installed a new security system: motion sensors, cameras, alarms. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent my career protecting other people's homes while my own had been compromised from within, but now I knew what to watch for: the subtle signs of deception, the gradual erosion of trust, the small lies that grew into larger betrayals. I'd learned that average wasn't an insult, it was a foundation: steady, reliable, present when it mattered. Emma ran over to show me a flower she'd picked, her face bright with innocent joy. She was the best thing to come from my marriage, the one perfect creation in all the wreckage. "Daddy, look what I found." "It's beautiful, sweetheart, just like you." She hugged my leg and ran back to her garden, already forgetting the small moment, but carrying its warmth with her. I watched her play, surrounded by the security I'd built, protected by the vigilance I'd learned. Average, I'd discovered, was exactly what she needed. Steady, dependable, present. The discount version of nothing, the premium version of everything that actually mattered. The security system beeped softly as I completed the installation. All sensors active, all vulnerabilities covered. The house was safe now, protected from threats both external and internal. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely at peace.